Summit's only been out for a couple days, and that's not enough time to solve a map, but it is enough time to start forming opinions. So let's do something stupid and rank every agent anyway. Before we jump into the ranking, I want to talk about the details of Summit that I find important to help you understand why agents are ranked the way that they are. First, for defenders, there's a lot of space in the map that feels unlivable for most agents in the pool. And when I say unlivable, it means being able to play at pivot positions that aren't immediately traded out by the enemy if they come with multiple people or utility. The red zones are simply untradeable space where only specific agents can really get away with playing in this zone alone, and will eventually get pushed out because of a factor of time. Outside of agent abilities being timed out, a player on this angle eventually has to worry about the angle disadvantage they have from the right, and this angle they have to worry about the timing from the left. And second, attackers lose the barrier timing on every single lane, meaning that defenders can always start with control or the earliest peak and be able to hold for their opponent. This means as attackers, any utility that breaks a line naturally has more value. Now with those details in mind, let's start with the Duelist. ISO as an agent suffers to have a clear forced lane to fight on Summit's defense like Haven A lobby where you're looking to contest early space to be able to turn two lanes into one. The lines aren't necessarily bad for his undercut to hit players, but you already win the timing as defenders off barrier to be able to take the space anyway. On attack, there are a few W key lanes that ISO's wall helps you break through, but ultimately on a contact heavy map, I feel the extra audio from popping your shield only helps the enemy hit easier util timings when you're looking to go through a choke. And for that reason, I have him pretty low at about a C. Jett as an agent is generally a safe pick as a self-reliant duelist that can live in space that other agents can't. Everyone's seen a Jett off-angled in A main on Ascent, taking a shot and giving. This is no different for Summit. Because defenders have barrier advantage on every lane, you have more options for mix-ups that you can take to look for an early pick. On the attack, Jett's Cloud plus Dash combo will always be a reliable way to entry space while getting info on player positions. The options, however, aren't the best on this map for entry pathing, to give you a fast punish opportunity, or a great landing spot that always feels safe. On a map with lower value verticality, I think it's only fair that we rank Jett at B. Neon is the perfect agent for Summit. Defensively, Neon is a character that has multiple ways to play in deep unexpected positions for a pick, while being able to disengage and live. The map geometry being largely tight corridors on so many lanes elevates the amount of value Neon can get from her stun in so many situations. Also, Neon can get deeper punishes than just a burst timing like a dash, which feels much more appropriate for the map on attack and defense. With everything in consideration, I'm confident that Neon is strong on this map and deserving of an S. Phoenix is currently one of the simplest characters to play with an obvious and effective game plan of stacking ult orbs and pressing your ultimate to create space for your team. This doesn't really change on Summit, but my only concern is how fightable and spammable both orbs are to deny Phoenix that win condition. Flash characters always benefit from open space in W key lanes where there is no cover like Bind Be Long, and there aren't a crazy amount on this map that justify always picking him. Because of his current power in the meta, it's hard to not have him rated somewhat high, so for that, we'll give him a B. Raze is an agent that excels in maps with tight corridors, chokes, and anchor positions that are easily naded out. Defensively, I anticipate Raze to do well in certain zones on the map that fit that criteria to a T, but contesting the midsection and mains will be hard for Raze, as satchels aren't the best tool to help you live in deep space and be untradeable. On attack, while the entry pathing and use cases for Roomba are positives, the anchoring positions feel a bit too open or hard to nade to justify Raze getting perfect value as a pick. Overall, I think she can be strong, but has clear weak points in mid, so for that, I'll rate Raze a B. Reyna is mostly known as a solo queue agent with not many use cases for pro play. Defensively, I don't think the agent is actually that bad on this map, as it fits two of the most important play patterns of peeking on timing and playing the off angle from unlivable space. Offensively though, Reyna ultimately doesn't provide good enough utility to help solve problems on attack. So for that reason, I'll have to rate Reyna a D. Waylay is actually one of the unique agents similar to Neon that has multiple pieces of utility that help you live in deep space and remain untradeable to help generate early game picks. Waylay's slow and ultimate get an insane amount of value based on the chokes and tight hallways that are present everywhere on the map. Your entry pathing is a little safer than all of the others given your ability to refract out, but just be aware that you are an agent that largely needs help in setting up your landing position, as there isn't super clear spots on this map to end your dash. For these reasons, I'll rank Waylay in A. Yoru in general isn't in a fantastic spot in the meta, given that his kit was basically cut in half in terms of value. But defensively, he still hits the mark on an agent that can play for early space and first timing aggression, and be able to TP across the map in case of the early signs of a rush. But in pro play, people will likely just wait the 15-second duration and then start their round with Yoru losing a TP for free. Offensively, there may be some nice interactions versus Sentinel utility that make him viable as a secondary duelist, with some decent options for TP endpoints if set up well. Despite how weak he is in the current meta, I'll be optimistic here and give Yoru the bottom of B tier. Next is the Initiators, starting with Breach. In every new map, there's always the immediate gut reaction to look at the Breach lines and say, wow, he actually could be nice on this map. And I'll be honest, I'm biting hard on this bait. One of the styles you can definitely approach this map with defensively is a super trap heavy, teamfight oriented style on the mains or on the links that come into sight. Where I'm mostly skeptical will be the re-clear mid-fight on defense, as the stun line isn't super clear on such an open space. As an important point for attack, mid defaults become much easier when you have a breach, as one aftershock clears one of the hardest corners to clear on the map while breaking the button. Coaches, please don't hate me, but I'm ranking Breach at A. Fade is an important scan initiator for this map, as she helps to deal with off angles and the types of agents that can live in deep space, using Prowlers as a direct counter. Defensively, Fade has stopping power value with Tether, 3 pieces of info util that can either spot players for a trap setup, or get info back for your team to stack the proper site. There's a lot of great Fade Eye lineups on defense that counter an exec or help with open space teamfights, but on attack, the options definitely feel more limited and easy to break. That being said, I'll rank Fade in A tier. Gecko on attack has some positives in the sense that you can slowly use your utility to section out areas and take map control with all rechargeable utility. And some of the areas also support Gecko's need for low buildings with no roofs and open space to get more value on your Dizzy. These info zones for your Dizzy are extremely punishable, meaning the defensive info gain is not very consistent and specific to only a few places on the map. I don't think this map was built for him, so I'll put Gecko in C tier. KO has some really interesting utility on the map in terms of his dagger for re-clear info or flash options toward mid, but the reason why I'm not a big believer in his value on the map is that he doesn't have naturally good flash positions across the map as a rotator. Most of the routes to rotate to sites are fully enclosed or one specific angle that you can look to support your teammates on B. Even on attack, a lot of the common stopping points have angles that feel clunky to throw a solid left click, so almost all of the value comes from dagger. Whenever I look to see if it's a good KO map, there needs to always be the option to throw a good flash on the fly to support your teammate on the pivot position. I don't really see that on Summit, so I'll rank him in the bottom of B tier. Guy's Dog is one of the most broken pieces of threatening re-clear info because of how deeply it can travel while clearing out tucked positions to secure you a deep line. But the obvious limitation comes from attack, in which most dog positions peek into a long line of sight, enabling the enemy to break it for free. And in terms of flash value, based on the way the mains are designed, it's hard to reliably trust your re-clear info, as they may accidentally tuck from the flash. But all things considered, there are still some good use cases for the flash to help refight mid or support a flood. With no great ability to clear an op and no stopping power, I'll place Skye at the top of C tier. Sovas will probably start by double shocking the button of the site you want to go to every round, but that probably won't last for long. While it's a cool and unique interaction, Sovas may quickly learn that breaking Sentinel utility could be more impactful of a use case for their shocks. Sovas drone provides safety in spotting those long-range open positions on Summit, in a meta that will probably have a lot of players opting for early picks. The worry for Sova is that you only have 2 pieces of utility to help your team get space, and that it may not be enough if you're looking to split through mid. If you drone the early mid timing, you won't have util for either the next area of control or the site hit. In this way, Sova's better for mains, and Fade is better for splits. Given I think the map will be focused more on splits, I favor Fade slightly more than a Sova for Summit, but I'll still give Sova A tier. KO is an agent that excels on closing off specific entrenched positions on site hits and playing post-plant. Playing post-plant on this map doesn't really feel like it'll be the meta toward A, and even if it is toward B, your missile position on an exec doesn't guarantee value, as there are so many open positions to play from. Having only one drone for info and to clear off angles definitely doesn't make this a great map for Teo, but it doesn't take away the potential ult value. But because his ult is only 2.5 rounds, I have him rated as the current worst initiator of the map and on D tier. And now for the controllers. Asher is one of the most talked about controllers in professional play because it creates this uncertainty through recalling the star that helps negate off angles and enables you to face with multiple players. As I spoke of at the beginning of the video, defenders win every off barrier timing, but when faced with a pull star that can pressure the cross, a lot of early positions now have to worry about more angles than just holding the one. For this reason, I find Astra's value to be pretty high on the map for attack, alongside the fact that she has global utility that she can place from anywhere, enabling positioning that beats out all of her competitors. And on defense, the biggest benefit of Astra is that if you play close to your stars, you can act as a duelist and play in positions that are more aggressive early and play to give using your smoke. Astra is definitely a solid pick, so I'll put her in S tier. Brimstone is clearly gated by the fact that you have to play as a rotator on defense and a mid player on attack because of your low smoke range. You still have all the usual benefits of stimming your whole team and being able to play post plant, but lacking an anchor on defense is going to limit your team's macro if not paired with another controller. There's a world with double controller that you can make him work as an anchor and post plant agent, so for that I'll give him the bottom of C tier. Clove has a lot of the same issues as Brimstone given the smoke range, but still will likely be played in ranked as Clove is an agent that has good self-sufficiency. Denying your team an anchor on a map that looks like retakes are impossible definitely isn't the move to win games on this map. Your only real option is to take the early fights toward mid and try to play for the flood. With low range smokes and no stopping power on chokes, Clove is an easy choice for D tier. Harbor is an agent that has seen play recently in competitive, but mostly on Breeze as it is a map that plays heavy for the retake, doesn't have many entrenched positions, and the majority of players in a post plant play out of sight. I don't think that these conditions will be met exactly the same for defensive retakes for Harbor, as there are plenty of spots to play in on a post plant for both bomb sites by an initial glance. That being said, it should be strong on attack as Harbor does the job well to contain open space, to section out the site players and prevent a flood. I don't think it's a perfect fit for Harbor, but he's definitely usable. I'll put him in B tier. Omen is usually a very strong competitive agent for his flexibility on fighting space on the fly without giving away any early tells. Contact traps with blind can easily become a bread and butter on this map, as almost every lane gives that opportunity. Similar to Astra, TPing across an angle or faking the TP can create that same type of pressure that breaks an angle from a player on an off angle and makes them slowly give the space. Unique to Omen is the idea that he can TP across the main and break either button without risking peeking from the common line. You'll have some issues with range, but you'll trade it out for solid one-ways instead. I'll rate Omen at the top of A tier. Viper's power in a contact-heavy map that has defender barrier advantage means anytime you pop your wall, you are effectively getting free space. Not only that, but she is one of the strongest anchoring agents in the meta that puts the most pressure as no one wants to force through an orb plus molly combo. Where her defensive value differs on this map compared to others is that the midsection doesn't all come to one choke like Corrode, making her lose a bit of her value on the second part of her wall. Regardless, she'll still be strong. I'll put her in A tier. Mix as an agent suffers a very similar fate to that of Brimstone and Clove in the sense of low range smokes. So the story isn't very different here. Cross map heal lineups could be cool, but I guess that goes for Decay and Molly as well. Low range smokes aren't a problem on attack, but on defense, it feels terrible. In line with the other low range smokers, Mix goes in D tier. For the Sentinel role, I feel like this is a pretty open book with a lot of opportunity for different picks. Chamber is the best agent in the game at living in unlivable space. Being able to silently play an off angle with no time limit or caring about how long your dash has left or refract makes him amazing on Summit. While I will say he's one of the best at this job on defense, his offensive capabilities are more focused on baiting out traps and still having to have supportive utility to be able to break angles. He has very clear strengths that punish a contact-heavy meta. For that, I'll put him in A tier. Cypher is the most underrated pick here based on how the map plays. Being able to act like Astra and Viper in the sense of breaking angles by throwing cage lineups and act as your own personal initiator with Cam puts Cypher in a unique position on attack to lurk like no other. Defensively, there are good one-way cams and ways to activate traps, and let's not forget how annoying it was to deal with this type of unbreakable trip on the main. Because he's also one of the strongest space controlling anchors in the game, I have to put him in S tier. Deadlock is an interesting pick because it's one of the Sentinels that actually benefits to execute by adding additional utility. On the attack, you have the net to help default, and your wall can block part of the B site, but you may want to scale there, so it's not always ideal. Trips are great for post plant on a map where retakes already feel impossible, making this feel like a win more piece of utility. While I like the mix-ups that Deadlock has on the map for trips, I expect lurk pressure and flanks to be rampant on this map. Therefore, I'll put Deadlock in B tier. Killjoy is an agent that has some of the absolute strongest ultimate value on this map that I've seen of any agent on any map. Either site's retake ult fully flushes your opponent out of the zones on site and forces them back into the main, making this one of the only reasons you shouldn't close the door toward A as attackers in a round. Killjoy Molly still isn't the most pressuring ability in the game, but you could see how a potential A site setup could completely roast anyone looking to take site. On attack, she doesn't have many tools to help create pressure herself, and her ultimate will only usually be twice a half, making me rank her at a solid B. Sage is an agent that often is higher value early on in a map, as you can create a lot of gimmicky ideas that the opponent doesn't have experience playing against. Whether it be a cheesy Grimwall, supporting a side hit with double Sage slow, or completely negating someone from entering a zone for an eternity, forcing them to take the earlier fights instead. Based on the fact that she has no trips in the Sentinel role, I'll always worry against lurk pressure on a contact-heavy map. Because she's great at denying chokes and simplifying splits, I'll rank Sage at the bottom of A tier. Vito is one of those really strong in-theory characters that people love to talk about. The positives for Vito on Summit is that he's a character that can live in unlivable space and be able to TP out, but his options aren't really the best to do so. When it comes to choke denial as a Sentinel, his role is less about stalling the choke and more about denying utility into the site or finding early pick opportunities like Chamber. Because there isn't any super heavy util zone outside of just the side hits, I feel that Vito doesn't currently have a great spot on the map as the meta will be heavier on the side of contact play. For that reason, he goes into C tier. Vice is an agent that I've seen talked about heavily on this map and with good reason. She serves an important purpose to throw anti-flood utility on attack and adds a layer to hits or defaults with the flash, but let's be honest, everyone can turn or shoot a Vice flash when it's placed in front of them. The majority of Vice's value comes from the potency of her kit on defense. Part of the reason that people even talk about macro in general is because she exists in the game, and you don't want to hit directly into her sight. With the map being so choke heavy and Vice being the queen at denying rushes through a choke, it would be hard to justify not putting Vice on the list pretty high. Due to her weaknesses on attack, I'll put her at A. And that's it. That's all 30. Bye.